来2位新成员的话，就是其实配合和磨合方面还没有其他像 WE 那个队更老练嘛，更成熟。
第一周上的是替补打野嘛，比赛打得非常艰难。康迪回来的话，整体节奏会比较好一点，因为配合很久了。
感觉这支 EDG 配合打法都比较凶。
他入的话，可能就类似这2年前的康迪吧，那时候他也是进攻性很强。
这位打野新人吧，就是敢打敢拼吧，给 EDG 带来的就是勇往直前的力量吧。
WE 的话，老队伍嘛，而现在康迪也回来了，对于我来说压力挺大的，希望能像现在的康迪一样更成熟。
跟他打的话，就打野之间的较量去战胜他。
和 WE 这场比赛对于我来说比较重要的一场比赛，给队伍带来帮助。我很期待跟这支新生 EDG 交手，希望能够赢下这次比赛。
Welcome back, everyone. We're ready to get into our next matchup. It's FPX versus Vici Gaming. And now, this time, we're here in Shanghai with a crowd that is packed full of hands, getting hyped for our match of the week coming up just after that first one. It's Edward Gaming taking on Team WE in our match of the week. But before that, though, Vici Gaming hunting for their first series win, trying to get themselves on the board. But FunPlus Phoenix, you can see the gloves are on. They are ready to take to the Rift back against these young upstarts of Vici Gaming and try to put them back in. As now, FPX are prepared to run it back. The question is, will Vici find themselves victorious for the first time in the LPL 2018 spring, or will FPX? My name's Tahm, this is Clement. You just saw us a few minutes ago, but for those of you who don't know, we are here for you till the end of the day. We're covering all of these games, all of these matches. And Clement, I am excited about how today's going to play out.
Oh, I would temper your expectations for this series right now. To give a good narrative, this is the bottom of the league between the Western, for the Western Conference, Vici Gaming versus FPX. Now, they do share one thing in common. Now, these two teams are the worst early game teams in the LPL. However, they're worse for different reasons. So for FPX, they have this good early aggression. You know, when we see them do well, they do very well. They're the only team so far to take down Snake. But when they do poorly, they're also one of the teams that do the worst. So far, they've had 4 blowout games where they're down by 2,000 gold at the 10-minute mark. And when that averages together, they're actually at the bottom of the league. Now, for Vici Gaming, the situation is actually kind of different. They just don't have a single position that has a positive GD at 10. So they're kind of losing everywhere early on, and then they're trying to claw back in the middle to late game with team fights.
And of course, that being said, Vici Gaming traditionally were the team that was well known as death by 1,000 paper cuts. They want to play it slow. They want to chip away at your health bar until there's nothing left. Against a team like FPX, I feel like that'll just irritate FPX into fighting. Because FPX isn't exactly a subtle team. They're not just going to sit there and let themselves get sawed down.
This is the reason I believe this is a good matchup for FPX. Because when FPX isn't punished for their mistakes early on, they do have a very good late game core. They have hyper carries like LWX, which you don't want to give Kog'Maw to. Just don't do it. And then you have Gimgoon, who can do his own things. He's a hyper carry. He can play a lot of carry champions if given the chance to. And I'm not sure if Vici Gaming are going to punish FPX, even if those early mistakes do happen. And we have to talk about what those mistakes actually are coming out from FPX. The 2 main problems they have is Pepper. Sometimes he just goes way over aggressive. We saw this against BLG. Tries for a level 2 gank, dies in his own jungle in the follow-up, and that game's pretty much just over from there. we had a lot of hype about Pepper. We said how smart he is, how good he's looking on Jarvan.
Yeah.
Hasn't able to make it happen on other champions like Lee Sin or Kha'Zix. Now the Jarvan's just constantly banned away.
Of course.
Second problem for FPX.
Yeah.
In terms of their late game, they're also the team that's most prone to just being caught out, and that leads to direct losses. So far, we've seen being caught out twice. Immediately the game ends afterwards.
Yes.
Also the same applies to Pepper.
So this is an excellent opportunity to talk about these last matches that we had with these two games. FPX playing against BLG just a few days ago, going 0-2. Like you said, a very swift performance from SKS against Pepper. Set him back very early on. Now we know Crash at Worlds was incredibly aggressive. He changed an entire team to fit his aggressive playstyle. And then he came to Vici Gaming, and it was the other way around. He slowed down and matched Vici's playstyle. Is there a chance we could see the Crash of old come back and remind Pepper of what happened just a few days ago?
That's a very interesting thing that's happening on Vici, and I wonder if it's the Easyhoon effect. Because we've actually heard from the coaching from Vici that they're trying to work Crash more into this map control style of jungler, which is a huge contrast to what we originally have known him for, like the hyper-aggressive type of Korean-style jungler. We have seen Crash really favor the Sejuani pick over anything else and just try to hold the lane and wait until Easyhoon has actually grown up and is able to do most of his damage. What I will say though is that Vici is showing some sparks of life. They got their first win against EDG, and a big part of that is them going back to their 2015 core, where they have Loong on the lineup, where they have Easyhoon and Caveman. All three of these go back all the way to 2015, so they're getting them back together, getting the old crew, and maybe that familiarity is going to help them a bit.
Yeah, but then it comes back to that clash of styles that we're talking about. Loong himself was the Shen main. He would split push, he would teleport in when his team needs him, and it worked against EDG. They were able to take game number 1, but EDG is an intelligent team. They learned their lesson, they punished them back. FPX have had several days to watch back that footage and attempt to glean what EDG now know. So we'll have to see if that strategy is once again successful, or if Vici Gaming are going to come to the table with something new here. Because again, this is their last match before intra-conference play comes to a close.
None of these teams want to be sitting at the bottom of their conference. If Vici actually get the win today, they will leapfrog over FPX, who will be then at the bottom place. And just to talk about the potential of these two teams, I think this is a bit harsher reality for FPX. You look at that roster, they should be able to fight anyone in this league. Gimgoon, a fabled top laner for his counter picks. Pepper, super aggressive, great on Jarvan, being kind of the newcomer but has shown potential. LWX, highest DPM AD carry we've seen the last split.
And of course, Crisp the support. Vici Gaming, though, well aware of their opponents. It's Loong, Crash, Easyhoon, Martin, and Caveman. And they're going to be trying to get themselves back into this. Of course, just recently re-qualifying from the LSPL by getting first place in the League Secondary Pro League. And now they're finding themselves in last place in the 2018 Spring Split just a few months later.
It isn't really much of a surprise. Let's just put it that way. Overall, the roster strength is kind of on the weaker side. We touched on that before. They don't have a single winning lane at 10 or even at 15. Not really at 20 either. So their roster strength is, you kind of just put a question mark over there. And looking at the screen right now, Gimgoon is going to have a good matchup into Loong. We saw that Vici, they wanted to try him out because he was a more explosive top laner. He could play the Jax, the Fiora. He had those type of champion pools in his roster. Loong, not really. He's kind of more of the steadier player, or the tank player, like you mentioned, a better Shen player. So maybe Gimgoon can pull out his red side counter pick strategy. We haven't seen it work so far.
I mean, maybe. Taking a couple of pages out of Invictus Gaming's book. We'll have to see if they can pull it together, though. Our casters, however, are ready to get us on into game. Gentlemen, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Tom. My name is Paulson. I'm alongside Raz for this next cast, and I'm going to dub this one the Hoon Squad versus the Goon Squad, because we've got 2 Hoons on that side. Will it be enough to upset the Goon, though?
Oh, you got 2 versus 1. That's all you really need.
Is it enough, though? Because I feel like in terms of stylistic differences here, FPX, this should be like the perfect matchup for them.
Yeah, here's the thing about that. Stylistically, you're right that it works very well, that FPX are all about that kind of high-impact action early on in the game. Even to the later portions of the games, even though we kind of give them a lot of criticism about kind of closing it off, they still bring that team fighting. They always bring out that kind of that spontaneous habits. They're going up across, of course, Vici. There isn't too much of that. Thankfully, they've rejuvenated. We've seen a lot more out of them in the last game going up against EDG. They took one game in a best-of-3, and while you're like, well, they still didn't take the series, we still saw a spark out of them with Loong back in the lineup.
And that's it, really. With Vici, it's growth that we've seen from them. Whereas I look towards FPX, and while they're a very fun roster to watch, I don't see much growth come from them because they burst onto the spin. We're like, man, they have all this together. They have a lot that can be molded with, but we haven't seen a lot from those first couple games.
Yeah, potential is the biggest one because you look at the roster, you're right. Lane to lane, Gimgoon, LWX, even Pepper have had some extraordinary play on their old squads. But they come into this lineup, and there are the same mistakes being made in the mid game, in the late game. Even now, early their problems are coming a big problem. We saw Pepper really get picked apart when they were going up against BLG, and I start to question whether you want Gimgoon on GP anymore. And that's the champion that he's been really comfortable with, that he's been showing a lot of strength with, but he can't if he doesn't have a proper jungler to basically back him up.
Yeah, there's a major problem in the top side. Maybe needs to be more self-reliant. Because when you look towards GP, and to be honest, he's a pretty self-reliant champion as long as he has like a jungle to exist top side, but was not what was happening in that game. On the opposite side, though, Vici, as you were saying, getting better from what we saw. They made some pretty good macro movements, and also the fact that they managed to pick up their first win is going to be a big morale boost as well.
Exactly, and this is when we have to look at Vici at a different lens, at a different perspective, because back in spring of 2017, Loong had the highest gold share and kill share of top laners. He was a major point of focus for the team, and he was still playing like the Shens, Rumbles, Maokais. He was still a team fighter. That just meant a lot of his focus was on how he TP'd into these team fights. He was a major team fighting top laner, and he really made Vici that kind of team. And so if you didn't have that before with Meow, you have it now with Loong.
Now, I do wonder what type of top lanes we'll see in this one, whether they will go towards those tanks or actually look for some carries in the top lane to try and snowball that one through. We'll take a look as we get into the champion select with FPX and Vici here. Will be Kalista and Azir so far from FPX. Rounded out with a Shen ban. On the opposite side, Jarvan and Caitlyn will come in from Vici.
And so Shen is the biggest piece of information you have to kind of rip apart. Loong showcased strong Shen play, and historically he's been the Shen player. So if you're on blue side of FPX and you have that first pick potential for yourselves, take away the Shen, you have that freedom to do so.
Yeah, Ryze is going to be the final ban here from Vici, so we'll take a look at what FPX won. They prioritized the Vladimir pick.
Okay, all right, so that is a flex pick, but Gimgoon has been the top lane carry, so it seems like that's something they're going to lean towards. Maybe they go into the second phase wanting to give him something better, or just saying, well, you know what? Vladimir does have a lot of good lanes.
It's interesting because it's one of the last few chances he'll really get to prioritize a Vladimir pick, as this is one of the last few games on 8.1 that we'll see out from the team. On the opposite side, Ezreal and Sejuani coming in from Vici.
Just to kind of hit the Vladimir even more, because we were talking about being self-reliant in the top lane if you were getting ganked quite a bit. One champion that really does well in terms of dives, if he's getting dived upon, is Vladimir, because he has that pool available to him. So I think that's an excellent kind of bit to focus on if you're Gimgoon.
Yeah, FPX now choosing the next couple of picks coming in here, looking towards the jungle role. It's going to be a Lee Sin pick for Pepper, so he's definitely still looking at the aggressive picks for the jungle. I mean, Jarvan's been taken away, so Lee Sin pretty much just the same thing there.
Already, FPX are just going back to what's comfortable, being on a roaming mid laner, on that mage or the Taliyah, so he can actually be impactful towards these side lanes, what we expected from him. And Pepper just going back to his main jungle champion, the most played Lee Sin for him. So it looks like FPX's strategy immediately going into the pick ban is give us the champions that we feel we can make the most impact on.
Comfort versus what actually works, because at the same time, Taliyah's had a 20% win rate so far in the LPL, so we'll see if that actually works out in the end for him. On the opposite side, Vici will pick up Cho'Gath, though, so you have to assume that one will be going into the top lane here against Vladimir.
Yeah, and we kind of have to start addressing what Vici's composition is starting to look like. Two major frontliners for the Ezreal. Cho'Gath is the bane of Lee Sin's existence. Lee Sin's, what is he going to do versus Cho'Gath? He wants to go in for that lead kick into the, what's it called, mid-game team fights, kind of find himself in the back line, try and kick maybe Ezreal into him. That's going to be tough as is because you have the blink. But on top of that, if you get silenced, what does he do other than get chomped? So it's going to be even harder for Pepper in the later portions of the team fights when you have a Cho'Gath and Sejuani staring you down.
That's always the problem with going Comfort because there's so much left on the board that can be picked into it. I mean, Cho'Gath's going to do very well in the lane against Vladimir anyway. It will be 2 AD carry bans from Vici, Kog'Maw, and Varus towards LWX here, and it will be a Zoe ban towards Easyhoon that's made it all the way through second phase.
And they already had the Caitlyn ban to begin with, so now FPX really have to dig deep into what AD carry they're willing to play here. I say willing because if you're LWX, you're probably in the back of your mind thinking I can play Vayne in this scenario. He's picked up a lot of Vayne throughout the split, and looking at this composition, that's very, very chunky. That's Sejuani and Cho'Gath. Basically, you really want to be able to hit down that HP. He's looking towards it, but you might not want to if you're essentially seeing how much early game impact Vici are starting to give themselves.
It's almost a bait at this point because FPX almost needs something that has like a lot of % damage to deal with all of these tanks, especially if Galio gets locked in here for Easyhoon.
And they haven't even picked up their support Vici. Vici have gone to their last pick to really decide what support they want, and we've seen quite a bit of Bard play. So if you're LWX and Chris, and you're thinking about what bottom lane we want, you have to be cognizant of what you can actually play in the team fights and supports. There we go, Tahm Kench being hovered. You do need protection.
The fact that also giving FPX kind of priority here on the support pool is very interesting because, as you said, Tahm Kench exists. I mean, pretty much all of the tank supports are still up available if they want it, like Tarek, for example, along with Braum.
That's what happens when you go into the second phase and you love to pick up Galio for yourself, right? You want to pick up that early, and hopefully Caveman's probably talking about I need a counter pick for myself. By the way, this isn't surprising. We already talked about it. But you're right. Tahm Kench was given away. That is a major kind of, I would say, flub. But they were focused so much on taking down the AD carries of Varus and Kog'Maw that this is going to be the result.
I wonder if Caveman actually picks up something like a Bard here, because that's what he actually brought up twice against EDG. Was one of the main reasons why Vici looked so good in that set was because of Caveman's play.
Yeah, Caveman has been an incredible Bard player. We saw them, that one game that they took a victory on was the Bard. And so we were talking about it going into this. Bard, I think, is a really good pick into the Vayne. Sure, Vayne has her tumble, especially if she has final hour into tumble. She can get away from that, or at least try her hardest to do so. It's still something that he can constantly look towards, kind of focus on, trying to pick the Vayne, or maybe even pick Tahm Kench out, just so Vayne's alone for a set amount of time. This composition is incredibly threatening if you're LWX.
I am glad to see that Vici are kind of sticking with what worked. They found something that actually stuck, and they've actually kept with it, with the bar going to the bot lane. Also the fact that they managed to get the counter pick in top lane. When you look at power points for FPX, you look towards Gimgoon, you look towards the top side of the map, and especially with that being a weakness now, because you don't know what Pepper's pathing is going to look like in the early game, something you can definitely exploit. So it seems like Vici have multiple power points across the board now.
Yeah, so if you're Vici gaming, a lot of it does now come down to focusing on the one sole strength that comes through the opposing lineup. FPX has a Taliyah in the mid lane. Taliyah wants to get rolling once she hits 6. She wants to go top side to be able to get that top lane rolling. So Cho'Gath is going to be, I wouldn't say defenseless, but he's definitely going to be under siege in the top lane by Lee Sin and Taliyah. This composition from FPX lives and dies by those two champions, and if they're behind, then they're really hoping that Vayne gets those 3-4 items, right? So that's a very specific focus for FPX. I like that. That means that they can actually now focus on that one composition, one win condition, and it makes it a little bit more simpler for them. But there is that kind of fear that you have to have that Vici will understand that and will try and just cut that out.
And luckily, of all the teams to be confident in that they'll actually go towards an early game play, you have to be confident in FPX, because Pepper, he will have towards top side for better or for worse. We know it's going to happen. So with this something to be able to focus on, a focal point in the game here for FPX, it will happen, is where, as you said, Vici can react to it.
Yeah, and this is when I have to kind of challenge Pepper specifically, because he's trying to path towards the top side of the map. We know that has been the major focus from him, but he can't be as impulsive as he was when he went up against BLG and ganking mid lane early on without having to take in the opposing side of the jungle when he's in a bad matchup. So those kind of things have to start really kind of grinding into his head, like, what do I actually want to do while I'm pathing topside that doesn't put Gimgoon behind?
Yeah, actually try and start changing up that style as well and see if he can actually allow just his lanes to be able to lane normally, because the problem is a lot of the problems have rippled out from the jungle in the last couple of sets. You know, BLG was meant to be a set where FPX could kind of test themselves against people above the middle of the pack. Like, where does FPX actually fit in? And right now, they are sitting right alongside Vici, who they're playing now.
And on top of that, it's about the stylistic kind of going across BLG, recognizing that they're a team fighting team and realizing, okay, wait a minute. Like, apparently we fall to them in team fighting. We need to kind of get stronger at that aspect.
Taking a look at the keystones, though, everyone's going inspiration apart from junglers, so no real surprise there. I'm looking towards the rest of the lanes. And yeah, Vayne as well going for that until spell book.
So 2 points for me that I want to look towards, of course, is Galio, whether he picks up the full AP build. We've been seeing a lot of AP Galios. You can see a little bit of a mix. Of course, going into the Doran's ring, early AP is fine. I just want to see what he builds on later on, because we've been seeing so much like bursty kind of Galios, but a little bit more fragile in team fights. In this composition, it makes sense for him to be a little bit of both, just because Crash and Loong can do a lot of tanking themselves. So maybe this is the game where he can go AP Galio for Easyhoon. And then on top of that, now the next thing I want to focus on is you look across the side, Crisp having Glacial Augment means that that could be a point for him to look to trade a little bit more often, because he's in a ranged matchup versus Bard. Bard's going to be throwing meeps and stuff at him, but if Crisp gets a Q off of him, get an auto attack off him, he's going to be running him down.
Yeah, we saw how effective Glacial Augment Tahm Kench has been so far in the LPL. Actually hilarious to watch him run people down.
Yeah, and he's got approach velocity as well. It's the combination of approach velocity and Glacial Augment that really is something you have to be afraid of if you're Caveman and Martin, because a lot of trades you think are good ain't so good once you're put into Tahm Kench's stomach.
Yeah, being also going for the Aerie, so he hasn't gone Inspiration first. Actually, we get to take a look at Tahm Kench's runes, in fact. Approach Velocity, as you said, and the Glacial Augment. Biscuits, actually the same as yesterday, pretty much.
It's funny. The 2 resolve points that he does have for himself is, of course, it's easier for him to trade. He's getting HP back on those points, because that's the resolve kind of match he's taking. Wind. And on the opposing side, if he ever is pushing into the enemy team, he's going to be able to chip the tower much faster, especially in the mid portions of the game, once he has a lot more HP underneath him, just because he's an HP tank, and now, of course, he's going to be able to chip down the turrets based off that HP.
The only difference that we saw yesterday from the Tahm Kench was the Iron Skin that came out, as Easyhoon takes a bunch of damage to mid lane, but there are a lot of AP threats on the side of Vici, though one AP threat in the mid lane is currently being shoved out.
Yeah, this is kind of unfortunate. Sure, he has 1 potion to his name, but Easyhoon has to be a lot more careful. Level 3 of Bing, and he's going to have a lot more control of the wave. This is a good point for Pepper and Bing to start getting more control around the mid lane, because Easyhoon's going to have to base, he'll switch to TP, but then you have to think, well, now he's going to be at a TP at disadvantage. So that's a point of strength the FPX want to focus on, and suddenly that's a point that they can actually work around.
And this is the unfortunate reality on top lane, where you're Vladimir into Cho'Gath, so you get pushed in, it's very difficult to do anything. That silence makes it very difficult for Vladimir to use any of his abilities, so try getting some of that health back against the constant poke against Cho'Gath, who also has his own sustain.
Here's the thing. I think this is more of a win-win situation if you're Vladimir, though. It's a win-win. Like, if you're pushing into the matchup, then, of course, you have pressure in lane. But if you're getting pushed into the matchup, you're farming, and you have a Taliyah in the mid lane. If they're doing quite well, then that's Loong having a very long lane to walk back on. So that's going to be a point of Gimgoon. He's kind of fine with either, but he has to communicate where the wave is.
Now, over to Pepper and Bing to see if that can actually work. Because so far, the synergy between Pepper and Gimgoon has been the one thing that's really let down FPX in that early game. So once Bing moves towards that level 6, he gets his Taliyah ultimate, is able to move over with the Weaver's Wall, we'll see if that synergy can actually work. Because Loong, as you said, he has the flash, but that's his only real ability to get out of dodge.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. A lot of the times when teams start failing early on in the split, they start to really change their identity. They're trying like, well, what really works for us? Maybe this identity isn't true. Maybe we can actually look towards LWX, focus all of the gold on him, or Gimgoon, all of the gold on him. This time around, it looks like they just doubled down into, oh, get out of there, Bing. Double down.
Bing caught recalling, just caught sleeping very slightly, but Pepper, he was around as well, just in case Easyhoon jumped on him.
But yeah, just doubling down what makes them a team, and that's Bing essentially getting those roaming picks. And if they continue to get those kind of picks for themselves, and they can continue to prop up the mid lane for the rest of the carry lanes, of course top side and bot side, then that should work stylistically for FPX.
Especially in this matchup here against Vici, because Vici do play the early game very slow. We saw more proactivity from them in the last set, though. Crash was actually getting out onto the map. Now he's moving back towards the Sejuani picks, the more defensive junglers, but we actually saw him roam more like he's doing right now with Easyhoon.
Yeah, this is a good step for Crash. We haven't gotten to see too much of this, and usually if he's looking to invade... Ah, that's sadness.
It's giving the quick assist over to Pepper. Sorry about taking the rest of the chickens.
Unfortunate. But yeah, usually if he's looking for those invades, he's doing it alone. This time around, we're finally seeing more movement from Vici to kind of help him out in terms of the jungle matchup.
It's like Clement was saying on the desk as well, Vici are making a conscious effort to try and integrate Crash more into the team, and especially around Easyhoon's style. And Easyhoon, he's always going to scale up. That's pretty much the player he is. Regardless of the pick he's on, he wants to go towards those mid-late game team fights. So if Crash can cater towards that, maybe that is something that will work down the line. It just seems interesting because Crash's identity so far from what we've seen him in his professional career has not been that.
Yeah, it's funny because when you get put in these environments and these teams, and I know that Flawless kind of had the same problem in Rogue Warriors of essentially realizing that you want to be that high impact jungler, but you realize that your lanes don't necessarily allow that to happen. Now that Crash has Loong, which was the answer in the LSPL, and honestly, when Bengi was on the team in Spring Split, that was the answer as well, was to go topside. It's easier for him now to kind of move topside or kind of have his team have more cohesion. But in the first sets that we saw from him, it was definite difficulties from him to kind of be able to jungle properly.
Almost seems ancient history now, the fact that Bengi used to be on Vici before they got relegated into the LSPL. And once they came back, of course, they Crash joined the roster, came back into the LPL.
That was a lesson that they learned at the time, because having Bengi, having too many supportive junglers, not a lot of action in the early game, they recognized they needed to change that. That was the biggest reason that they brought in Crash, was because they needed kind of that early game bridge. They kind of lost sight of that recently, but it looks like it's getting a lot better.
As that approach velocity, and the roam actually comes bot side, burning the flash from Martin. Both summoners, in fact, onto the bot side, burnt by FPX, but the first roam was towards bottom.
Yeah, really good look from Bing. He's going to be able to go back into the mid lane and have the entire wave as well, so he didn't lose anything for that one small window to burn flash on Martin, both sums actually. So he can actually continue to do that. He doesn't even need the ulti next time around. Really good look for Bing.
Yeah, teleporters are just being used by both top lanes to get back into lane here, so nothing really happening on top side. Just buffs now going over to the junglers. Taking a look at some of these item builds, of course, all the stopwatches have now become active. Both mid laners just getting towards their mana items, as Caveman has to take the magical journey out in bot side, and Martin also just completing his tier.
Yeah, lucky for Caveman that he was able to slow Crisp when that happened, just because then that would be two people walking up you not so slowly. Pepper's pushing in.
For the invade, lands the Q, comes in. Good smite by Crash coming out there. Pepper just kicks him away. Crash following after though. Ultimate barely misses. There's going to be the knock into the wall there. Crash taking a bunch of damage out from Bing. Easyhoon looking for the block. The Q just managed to land. Follows up on the Crash. Somehow goes around. Everyone take a time out though, as Caveman puts an end to that one. Martin laying down cover fire, but Easyhoon, he's trapped in the middle of FPX. They find 2 quick kills.
The entirety of the team collapses upon the matchup. Really well done for the entirety of FPX. Bing followed through. Crisp and LWX followed through. Pepper knew he had the backup of his entire team for him to follow through on that kick and assassinate Crash.
FPX taking the early game advantage, and it always feels like we managed to get to this point in the game for FPX. No matter who they're playing against, we see them with an early game advantage. Whether they can actually capitalize on it is obviously step 2, but this always happens with FPX. They find some skirmish to get themselves ahead.
It's good, because that's their major point of strength, especially with this kind of competition. At this point, Pepper wants to get out of dodge. But look at it. Great positioning. Bing was able to get the knockup. Was sliding across to be able to help him out, and that was so good. By the way, Easyhoon probably should have looked to body block that, but he wasn't able to, so immediately, one member down, Easyhoon's going to follow. And that's a pretty sick ulti coming in from Caveman as well.
I was definitely very surprised though that Q somehow managed to clip Crash coming out from Pepper though. Like, yes, he should have walked forwards, Easyhoon should have tried to bluff, but it looked like the model was like directly over Sejuani. It looked like he was riding Bristle as well, and it should have hit the back driver, but wasn't happening.
Ultimately, the major lesson to learn if you're Vici was that, sure, you send out the ulti if you want to follow through on Pepper, if you don't want him to leave your jungle, but if you miss, he's left. Yep. He's gone, and you know that Bing is going to be there fairly quickly, so you shouldn't continue to follow, but Crash wanted the fight.
Now I just want to see what FPX can actually do with that advantage they've gained for themselves, if they can turn that into anything more, because right now it's actually Crash and Easyhoon looking to make a play on bot side. Crash is here, removing the vision, but it looks like Easyhoon's bailing out from the play.
Yeah, from this point forward, FPX don't have to do anything necessarily. Look at Bing. He wants to be able to base because he doesn't have that much mana to his name, and he's getting items for himself. So now that he can go back to the mid lane, he puts Easyhoon on a timer. This is all about patience, but Vici want this now.
Oh, Loong really wants it. He's just teleported onto that flank ward. He doesn't have vision of them right now. Pepper's right around the corner. Dodges out of the rupture. Crash comes in, and the scream goes wide. Good knockback. That actually landed into the wall there. LWX going to get locked down onto this Cho'Gath. Q somehow managed to weave into Loong. Follows up on the kick. Lands the kick onto Crash. Knockback coming in, courtesy of Lee Sin. But that's going to be to the detriment right there as Pepper goes down. LWX was looking for the follow, but Easyhoon takes the magical journey to safety.
That was a risky kick, and he thought he could get the full distance from the kick, but he couldn't. Got knocked into the wall, so he was able to just come back away entirely. So from that whole play, Pepper loses out. But it looked really dodgy for Vici at the beginning of it.
it definitely looked like that was going to work out a lot better for FPX than it actually did in the end. Especially with Pepper landing that Q, but yeah, didn't work out.
Because initially it was an overforce from Vici. The TP coming through, it was already seen by the whole team of FPX. FPX, theoretically, should have played it slow just because what ends up happening, Bing goes back mid lane, pushes the lane, puts Easyhoon in a bad position. He needs to find a proper base timing. But because they chose that fight and they thought they had the opportunity, which was a small risk, they lose out from the initial strength that they had of Bing having a first back. So it was good from Vici, and I guess at the end of it, because they get the result that they were looking for.
Yeah, even though the initial play maybe shouldn't have worked out. Loong's going to benefit from that, though, with the teleport, so it definitely made it worth his time to go towards the bottom side. He finishes his Abyssal Mask. Top side is now safe for Crashers to go in, take everything away. Now we'll go back to a slightly quieter stage of the game while both teams will look to farm now.
But this game state, it still remains kind of in favor of FPX because Taliyah's back in the mid lane and has her ulti and she's pushing up the mid lane. Look at Galio, had to base. Sure, he has TP, but it allows time for the Taliyah and the Lee Sin to create more control around the bottom side of the map. You already see where the control ward is currently at the bot side right now in the river. That's something they should pivot around.
Let's see if they actually end up doing that in the first place, because Crash is currently in the bottom side, removing most of that vision, using the Scry's Bloom. And also, we've got Pepper on top side since he has to give over that blue buff.
All right. I'm going to use that time to get blue. It's kind of sad when those windows kind of close out, but you can always find a new window just because of the push priority that right now Taliyah has.
Crash is invading it. I think he's just seen the red buff just come up, but he is looking towards his bottom lane. LWX is very low. Second ultimate coming across from Martin.
Wow.
In not so many minutes. And this tower is actually going to fall because of that earlier pressure.
Yeah, that chip was really meaningful. 2 Ezreal ultis on top of LWX's head means that he doesn't want to take any more skirmishes. So you push out FPX bottom lane repeatedly. I guess that tower damage just really built up. FPX didn't really have or feel the sense of urgency to be on the bot side of the map.
Yeah, I mean, Pep was just giving over blue buff and bot lane was falling, so definitely not noticed out there. That's pretty big for Vici taking the first tower. A lot of that gold going over to Martin on top of that as well.
Those are those minor details, the small details that can really help out a team in those moments because FPX probably doesn't know that the fact that they were so far ahead really early on, just based off the tempo and how good of a game state that Bing was in. Going to be able to go back to the mid lane, have those opportunities to push in ulti bottom lane, but they lose out so much because of bad base timing, essentially, or at least the bad fight that they really chose in the bottom side of the map, and also at the same time, the one window that Taliyah had to go to the bottom side of the map and look for a fight, she went to pick up blue buff.
Now, we're thinking stylistically as well. Vici, this is literally a perfect circumstance for them, being able to not only fall behind in the early game, but manage to pick up a tower here, and essentially evening up the game. As long as they can just buy time, get later on into the game where FPX kind of start falling off, honestly, as Crash walk towards this dragon. He's seen Pepper. Pepper's going to kick him away, secure the Cloud Dragon. But bot lane is already wrecked by FPX, and this allows Loong to come in with another teleport just below them. Looking for the Rupture, lands onto two key members, gobbles up the Lee Sin. In comes Galio to join the fun. Crisp trying to get out of here, but he'll just be the sacrificial lamb. We'll see if LWX can get out. He's going to try, but Martin follows him down with the auto attack. Meanwhile, Crisp left in no man's land. 3 kills over to Vici, and Bing caught out a fantastic ultimate in from Caveman. Seals the fate of the mid laner.
Good lord. Vici were not only the eyewitnesses, but they were the police as well. Catching out the Lee Sin, soloing out Dragon. Sure, you know, he thinks he's got a way out, but the sadness of having Spellbook and everything on top of it for Loong is that he was able to TP so quickly onto the scene of the crime. Just getting 2-man knockup on both the AD carry and Lee Sin. Such a good TP play from Loong. Look at this. Take a look at this. The TP play coming through. He waits. He's patient too. Waits for the play to come in. Boom. Pops them both back up and erases Pepper from existence just to follow them through.
I actually wonder what happened to Gimgoon in that fight. He teleports very late, just a few seconds ago, all the way around the backside. That was never going to do anything in this fight, and it just means the rest of his team just gets completely cleaned up on. He rotates towards the mid lane and tries to make a push happen.
Yeah, awkward timings, and it always hits the top lane the hardest, because if the bottom side of the map don't think they need the top laner, and if they're just making a jungle, hey, you know what, we're just sneaking Dragon. Don't even worry about it. You don't even have to think about it. But then you realize the entire game is probably going to change on that moment, the moment Vici is going to be able to catch him out. So it's like, should I TP? Should I not? Should I stay in lane? In hindsight, don't TP. But you never really think about it in that case.
Yeah, big problems. However, FPX do respond with a bot lane tower here, just because of how the rotation worked out. Martin will take the top tower in return, but there's a small bit of tempo here for FPX if they can do anything, since every single member of FPX is in bottom side, while the Herald is also being taken.
This is awkward for Vici right now. The fact that he's taking Rift Herald, and of course Ezreal's in the opposite side of the map when the full 5 member of FPX are just raining down terror on this tower. Wait a second.
Long has managed to clear a lot of this wave, though. This tower will be very close to falling, but I'm not sure if they're going to be able to do it in the end. The 3-man defense was enough. Long actually just pulls off the defense.
They're starting to ping on this inner turret as well. Right now, it seems like they're trying to change pace. Wait a minute. Are they trading towers with 2 people and a Rift Herald?
They'll be able to do it as well. With this Herald coming in, Martin in the top side, and now only FPX kind of exiting from that play. They're moving from the mid lane to the top lane. Pepper's actually walked from bottom lane inner all the way to top side.
Oh, he's going to be able to base. I believe in him. There we go. I've never seen that in League of Legends in my life. Ever since Rift Herald has come onto the scene as a tower force. You never see 2 people in the, like, honestly, you look at that play and say, wow, they're completely out of position. Jungler is obviously taking an objective across the map. That should be a bottom side tower. In fact, even though you're right, Loong was able to clear the wave, you're like, okay, we'll just wait on the next wave. Any team will think that. But the fact that Ezreal already was ushering a wave towards the inner tower and the Rift Herald was already picked up, Rift Herald does enough damage to compensate for all that damage that FPX did to the bottom side of the map.
Vici just had faith in the end as he looked to siege the mid lane tower, and this is the second time now that Vici have surprised me with a macro play. Like, I look at their positioning and I'm like, I'm not sure if this is actually going to work out. I think back to the EDG series when they managed to pick up a Baron on top side when EDG are sieging the bottom lane. I was like, there's no way this is going to work. They take Baron, they manage to snowball the game in their favor. Again, this happens here where FPX are sieging an inner turret there, but Vici are able to double down on their play.
Yeah, they seem far more cohesive as a team. Vici as a team, as a squad, especially their top side of the map. Right now, 3-0-1. Loong is having an incredible game. And his team is around him. It's not just a Loong show. It's literally the team propping up their top lane position. That didn't happen when Meow was on the team. Meow was oftentimes alone in a 2v1, 3v1 environment and dying because he didn't have that pressure. It really sometimes is as simple as calling it a communication problem. And if the communication is now there, when you have a veteran top laner there, that's as simple as, I guess, a job well done.
And you'd have to think that is actually the case because the teleports we've seen so far from Loong have been very good. He always comes in at the right time, also in the right place. And whether that's communicated beforehand, whether it's him looking out for the right wards, the right minions, the right situations, Loong is making it happen. So veteran status always counts for something.
Yeah, you kind of have to, it's a lot of the times it's a tag team moment, you know. Caveman's doing incredibly well in this game. His ultis have been on point. And I remember first game, EDG versus Vici, kind of the graphic came up showing it was the 100th game in the LPL with those 2 players. That Loong and Caveman have known each other for quite a long time, so you can understand that the communication seems like it's back on track with the 2 of them.
Now, meanwhile, we're seeing Martin move back into the top lane. He's pretty much got a free lane here just to keep on farming. But Vici very much have control over this game. It's worth mentioning they are ahead in terms of gold, they're ahead in terms of towers. The only thing they don't have is dragons right now, but Crash has managed to find Crisp. See if he can actually do more here, because nice little bit of damage down onto Caveman. He's going to try and escape here. Looking for, oh, LWX over the wall, snipes down Caveman. Crash trying to get out now. Weaver's wall was looking to cut him off. But Crash, once again, knocked into him, into Bing rather. Doesn't have enough damage to finish him off, but Caveman falls to LWX's aggressive flash over the wall.
That was a great defensive play of FPX as a whole. I'd say Bing incredibly being in position for that flick to get the damage off of Caveman. It's like Loong has had to, wait a minute, more members here.
Oh, Crisp is coming into the bottom side, and he's got someone with him, someone in the passion to see it, and it's LWX. He's not going to have to turn around, though, because Loong is looking pretty scary. Crisp is going to gobble him up and allow him to kite away. Good condemn out there, finally finished off the Cho'Gath, but at the expense of the mid lane tower.
What a hectic game. Both teams are trying to trade for literally everything 5 minutes into this one. For the past 5 minutes, we're just seeing bottom lane tower, or at least inner tower, being traded for top lane inner tower. You're seeing just these trades of, yeah, sure, you were able to take down Loong, but you lost a mid lane outer turret, which is far more impactful for the next 5 minutes now that Baron has been spawned onto the map.
And right now we are seeing more from FPX, and it's actually nice to see because we look towards FPX and it's like, why can't they win games? Because we looked at them initially and they looked like a pretty good team. We saw the invading coming out from Pepper. We actually heard from a lot of junglers saying that Pepper's a very aggressive jungler and we're probably going to have to shut them down at the jungle role. But then it seemed like they stopped evolving against a lot of teams. Obviously, stagnation becomes a very real problem. Like you look at Dan Gaming now, TOP, stagnation was very much a problem for them for the last year. So FPX now, everyone was hoping that problem wasn't going to happen to them, but they are looking for more opportunities. Even when you move into the mid-game, they're still trying to open things up for themselves.
Yeah, we're starting to see those improvements from the individuals, specifically from Bing and Pepper, I would say. The fact that Pepper now has had a much better early game than he did when he was playing up against BLG. SKS was able to kind of run rampant into his team because that was Pepper playing far more impulsively when he needed to be farming. Right now, he's been farming quite well while still being quite active on the map because he's given himself that time in respect to the opposing team.
Yeah, you can still play that style, but sometimes it's about tempering it, making sure it actually works in the context of your team. That was another dragon going down, meanwhile, while that was happening. So the Ocean Dragon and the Cloud down. Next one's going to be Infernal, so that's going to be quite big for both teams here, as that one was spawning around 4 minutes from now. Baron is also up on the board, so you can see many pings coming out from both teams actually talking about wards.
Yeah, they really want to focus towards this top side of the map. You can already see Gimgoon positioned towards the bot side, getting the wave pushing. So FPX's mentality, control Baron. Vici have kind of whiffed that and are already putting 2 control wards near the pit to get full control of the area.
Vici push into the jungle here, placing down even more wards. Gimgoon in the bottom lane. He does have teleport. He will be able to turn up to the play, but it looks like he might be starting this, or at least trying to bait it. They know they have complete vision over this area, Vici.
They're using the Scuttle Crab to make and force FPX into thinking that they're starting it. They have enough vision to showcase that they're going into the pit, not enough to know if they're starting it, but Gimgoon's already on this tower.
Yeah, so now Vici have to actually go back to base here and try and adjust that. At the very least, Loong has to do that, since he does have the teleport.
It's just a great mind game from both teams, because FPX really played it, I wouldn't say smart, play a little bit risky, right? They're in that position where like you have to believe that Vici are doing Baron. They walk past the Scuttle Crab to do it, and they have a lot of damage and burst. Cho'Gath ulti will be able to secure it, so you don't want them on top of it to start. But they just kind of play their cards. They're like, wait a minute, we can just hold on just a bit. And Gimgoon's already on that road towards the bottom side of the map, so they get a free tower for all of that.
Vici is still sticking around the area, and they still have control because they managed to keep 4 players here. Pepper stepping up, though. Even stepping up this close to Vici is scary, just because of all the catch potential and ways to start a fight that they have.
And thank the Lord for Ghosties. Thank the Lord for that. The fact that Vladimir in this patch is able to use that to catch out the control of where Vici are placed. They're on it, though.
Yeah, they feel like they've exhausted all of the methods that FPX have of scouting this area, and they're pretty much right. They have no blue trinkets ready for them right now. Vici have started this. It's already down to half. Chris approaching the area. Scribes Bloom's going to spot this one out, but Pepper's over the wall. This is an early Q. Vici might decide to stop this, and he goes to a 50-50. Loong, however, has the Cho'Gath feast. He secures it. Meanwhile, on the backside, Crash is actually soloing out Pepper. LWX trying to come to his aid right here, but Crash going to finish him off with the ultimate, spreading up the fight. Great use of the ultimate coming in from Caveman. And Pepper will lose his life, and Baron goes over to Vici.
Wonderful job for Vici. They just straight out burst that Baron, and the way they disengage from the fight, it saves out Crash as well. Caveman just sending out his Bard ulti just to create space for LWX so he cannot press forward. Because if he gets Bard ulti, then the entire team of Vici will collapse onto him.
Honestly, just really well played by Vici. They exhaust all of the methods that FPX have actually got to spot out the area and then immediately start it.
Yeah, and if they played that for about 5-10 minutes, they were just kind of playing it patiently. They put FPX in the mentality that they are just looking for base, that they're looking for the fight. So if you suddenly change that gear shift and just go, well, actually, we're actually just doing Baron right now. You don't even know about it. They're able to get it so much quicker. It looks like FPX want this fight.
Yeah, splitting up the fight. Crisp is going to get the save off there. Martin pins into the wall. LWX is a massive member right now. Gimgoon with a fantastic flank. Coming with the Galio ultimate, splits up the team. Gimgoon's by himself, needs to fend for himself for a couple more seconds before the team comes in. Easyhoon on the front line, still 4 HP. Now Gimgoon with the chase. In comes Pepper, kicks the tank into the team.
Oh, no.
And Bing, he doesn't want this at all. Colossal smashed out of the game. Martin fell on the backside over to LWX. Meanwhile, Crash trying to escape. But Vici, they're being pincered, they're being cornered. And LWX finds 1, he finds 2, and now he's on the chase.
Scatter, every single one of you. LWX is going to get the last kill.
He's going to get this one. Crash, he runs away. He's got the Warmogs as well, but 4 kills to 1. FPX find the fight.
Such a good chase down. It all started off with Bing utilizing his Taliyah wall. And sure, Lee Sin definitely kicked him to his demise, but the sole carry was going to be LWX. And it was great to see him kind of kite back Loong, because Loong had an opportunity to bite him out and kind of turn the fight entirely. But thankfully, LWX was protected, well protected in that team fight.
Gimgoon was able to buy so much time at the back of the fight as well, giving his team time to catch up. And you can see it was coming in from this flank from Vladimir and, as you said, the Weaver's wall.
So a 5v5 turns into a 5v3 just because of that wall. Bard and Galio cannot help. And Gimgoon directly into the backside, Martin immediately deleted. That is all you need to know, my friends, because if you don't have an AD carry, and if Gimgoon has access to your backside, you will lose the fight. Great timing there, because Loong had already used his silence. Lee Sin is not going to get canceled out when he tries for that kick. And you know what? It kind of does the job, because suddenly Vici have to commit to the fight with where the rest of the FPX members are. So from this point forward, FPX should kind of lay back in their chairs, because that's a one fight for them.
Already, LWX was 3, 1, and 2 heading into that fight. So now he's picked up even more kills. Now he's got 3.5 items. And that's pretty much one of the big win points for them now, plus the fact that Vladimir picked up a bunch of gold off of that fight. That being said, Vici have just moved back into the top side of the map. They still had 1 Baron left available for them. So they will take this tower. Looks like recalls are coming through, though, by Vici.
That's the thing about Baron. Sure, you've completely won out in the last fight. If you have 1 straggler, then you know what? You still have to be afraid of the waves crashing into your turrets. And in that instance, they lost the tower just because Sejuani and the rest of the team were just able to pile up on 1 wave.
But it gives positioning over the Infernal Dragon for FPX, so they'll claim that one for themselves. Next one's going to be Ocean before the Elder Dragon.
Oh, here we go.
He wants it. Bing pops the ultimate. He's going to be cutting off Loong here, who was farming the mid wave by himself, completely caught unawares. His team unable to respond because of the Weaver's wall, has to stand there and take it.
This is when you have to really respect how fast FPX can move. Tahm Kench could do it for you, and all he needs to transport is Vayne, because Vayne will just solo out anybody at this point. Has 3 crit items available to him, and is already moving on to what either could be a Guardian Angel or a Bloodthirster.
Pepe, he's waiting around the sides looking for this flank. And honestly, what a comeback from FPX. The fact of being able to do this against Vici.
Oh.
He glanced the kick onto the jungler. Caveman low. That being said, it was the support. Takes the magical journey. Meanwhile, Gimgoon chasing front to back right here. Easyhoon over the wall. Needs to get away from the angry Vayne. LWX hits the final hour, and he's moving forwards.
And this should be an inhib because Loong is down. Easyhoon has to go back to base. Not going to try for it. The wave is already pinned out.
Got really chunked down there as well. Ooh, Martin just an inch away from Bing. And that very angry flick coming towards him, but he'll back away. Teleport, though, from Loong, very far back. They'll see if they can pick up any stragglers here as the team is split. It's Gimgoon and Bing to one side, Crisp in the middle lane, but gives the Cho'Gath a lick, and it doesn't seem like he wants it anymore.
Yeah, he probably thought there were more people there, didn't expect the entirety of FPX to scatter. So he's like, maybe I can get someone else, because I technically don't want to just be wailing at the Tahm Kench. He only realized later on that that was his only option.
Unfortunate, because it looked like a good TP in theory, but Vici still scrambling to try and find a new fight. FPX are completely evened up this game, however. Vici, that being said, they are still on the offensive, trying to use the last little bit of this Baron buff, it looks like, from Sejuani. Actually, has timed out, they're just on the aggressive.
Yeah, this is such a back-and-forth game. You really have to respect the chip damage that Martin can do right now. Double buffs, Ezreal. So at this point in time, if he hits LWX and force, oh, you know what? LWX, you have to go.
Oh, he can just do that too. Being very low, and he's put down by Loong. The flash falls, the feast comes in.
Oh.
Pepper actually baits out the flash over the wall. He's still going to get caught out. Meanwhile, Easyhoon, he's got the Zoni's Hourglass.
No
but meanwhile,
way.
Martin in the 1v1. He backs away. Easyhoon buys a bit of time using the grand entrance, but overall, that's just 1 kill. And Pepper's on the run from Crash. Gimgoon's going to come to his aid.
What's happening this
game?
game?
I have no idea, Raz. Where's Crisp? Why is he over there? He's going to fall as well. 2 kills to Vici, a tower, and now they're going to push deeper.
You see these individual players. LWX could have turned that entire fight on a dime, being able to chip down Easyhoon to nothing. But at the end of the day, Vici come back together. There's a 5-man unit, and they're starting to batter down these turrets.
This will be at least an inhib here. I'm looking towards Bing. He's now respawning very shortly. LWX are down to half. Gimgoon wants to flank, but honestly, you just can't do it right now with only 3 members on map.
I don't know about that one, Gimgoon. Get out of there.
Yeah, a little bit dicey, but in the end, Vici will claim the inhibitor. And as you said, this is just such a back-and-forth game. I thought for sure FPX would be on the offense.
It's hilarious, because both these teams have their primary focus right now at this point of the game on their AD carries. Ezreal on one side looking for poke, massive poke that he was able to get down on LWX, and able to just kind of chomp down on Bing. So 2 carries are gone, theoretically. LWX was like, actually, I have solo time with Galio, and guess who's going to try and save him? Martin. I could chip Martin down too. This is really strong play here from LWX, but from this point forward, Vici realized that their one weakness was being picked apart, so they regroup. Chris was like, wait a minute. I didn't think you guys would be here so quickly, and he dies himself.
Yeah, just an unfortunate Abyssal Voyage. It looked like that in the end. But LWX playing that so incredibly well. It was just the heal at the last moment coming in from Martin that managed to keep him alive. And it was the ultimate out from Easyhoon that managed to keep him alive as well. Otherwise, that would have been a double kill and probably a very different fight.
Yeah, credit to Vici's communication, recognizing that that one crack in their defense, in their offense as well, was all because they were starting to, you know, move away from the rest of the squad. Easyhoon's flash to kind of predict Lee Sin was a weakness because he was alone now. That was the one play, but he needed to rectify that, and they did by regrouping. So that kind of 5-man ball composition is becoming a problem for FPX because they can't really take this front to back any longer.
Because there's just been constant fighting for the last 6 minutes, it doesn't feel like it's been 6 minutes, but there is another Baron up ready for the team to take, or rather 7 minutes coming in here. Pepper, he's got the smite, he's got the Lee Sin.
That's
Let's see if he can get in here. No, it's down to half right now. Pops the Q, so he's able to get over. But half the team's taking a magical journey.
Wow.
Loong has not read the same memo, though. Pepper's going to try and run away. Time out, everybody. Caveman buys a bit of time for his team to get in there. Cho'Gath, he's going to be eaten up, but let's back out. Chris, does he have the Grey Elf? Yes, he does. Massive flick coming in from Bing. And this is just going to haywire right now. Looking towards LWS. He's completely untouched. Now he's dropped low by Easyhoon, but he finished him off anyway. 2 kills over to FPX. They're coming in for the chase. Martin just out of range of the Tides of Blood. Chris will sacrifice himself to try and get this slowed down, but he's got just enough health. Oh my god, somehow managed to survive. Caveman gets out of here at 1 for 4.
That was the one chaotic fight FPX needed, and they got it for themselves. 4 low members scattered, and LWX were able to chip them down man by man, and they couldn't try and chip him down too. They couldn't try and kill him because he had GA as well.
That was absolutely absurd, Raz. LWX just able to kite around the edges of that fight, stay alive. Barely in that one. Pepper also escaping while Loong was just trapped by himself. Everyone took the magical journey away from him.
Just when I talk about how their communication was getting stronger, Bard sends out an exit, but Loong missed the memo. So that was the major issue here because he walks forward. He's like, wait a minute, I should have been walking backwards. So this was a case of saving Private Loong, and it was taking a little bit of time. Sure, it turns out that they were able to get there in time so he can join the fight just a little bit, but he's already dead. And Vladimir has already sent out his ultis, Tides of Blood, and the rest of the team needs to run away because LWX is on them. So, sure, it looked good initially, but because they get baited into a disadvantageous fight, FPX see that one moment and they go right for it.
Crisp is so confident when he uses these Abyssal Voyages as well. That last moment, just able to use the Iron Skin, the Great Health, keep himself alive.
It's a sense of team, recognizing that sure, he'll die. If Vici sees him, they're like, okay, we'll just pick off the Tahm Kench, but we've spent time doing that, and he's already licked one of us. So at least one of us will die.
And someone's been marked for death. And what does that actually mean for the game? Because right now, look at the goal. It's almost bang on even. 34 minutes into the game with this many kills, with this many objectives, and the fact that Vici has 4 towers over FPX. The fact that the goal is still even is incredible to me.
Yeah, this is kind of a risky one, just because FPX, they have Baron buff. They have a Vayne who has full items right now. It might not be getting the full use because GA is down, but the Bloodthirster means so much because she could stick into the fight. So pile up right on her. Right now, look towards where she's pushing. That's the bottom side of the map. They have the point of pressure, and they're using it on the one downed inhibitor, meaning that the one kind of advantage Vici had, which is kind of maybe split pushing in the bot side of the map, is no longer there.
And LWX, he's always the member you're looking towards when you hit late game for FPX. He's the late game insurance for them. And on this Vayne, no less, the fact that he's into a team composition with so many tanks, so many people with so much HP, literally the perfect pick he could have in this situation outside of a Kog'Maw. And I say, because of how scrappy these fights are, how chaotic they are, Vayne is even better than Kog'Maw would be in this situation.
Yeah, because Vici are trying to go that front-to-back style. But if the tanks cannot protect Martin, the tanks in this scenario can apparently not protect Loong from his own demise, then, yeah, Vayne's getting a lot of free hits. A lot of the stats, a lot of the HP stats that Easyhoon, Crash, and Loong have built up is going to waste.
As we look for the siege here in the bottom side, in comes the Weaver's Wall, splits it into a 4 versus 5. This is a little bit scary for LWX. He doesn't have that DA just yet, got a little bit longer on that timer.
That's the benefit of having the shield here from LWX, benefit of having a lifesteal as well. You can walk up and take that extra bit of poke. They were afraid of the poke not so long ago, of Martin chipping them down. That has been the reason why Vici have been kind of finding a little bit of lead in these later portions of the game. But if, you know, if Vayne could just walk up, then he's going to be able to do that.
Here comes the minion wave once again. There is a big wave mounting on the top side there that will be need to address by FPX. Vici are still pushing it back, and there's just too much wave clear right here. The fact that LPX doesn't have this Guardian Angel, he can't step up, he can't chip the tower, so the team will just disengage.
Yeah, it's a little bit unfortunate. They had 20 seconds left on it. There could have been enough for one more wave, but you're right. They recognize that the top lane wave needed to be trimmed, so now they're just going to take a dragon out of it.
Next one will be Elder. That's going to come up in quite a ways from now, however. And FPX will go back into their side of the jungle. So we'll see what Vici now can do with this breathing room. No doubt they'll just spread back out onto the map. Yeah, and try and contest for vision. Because at this point in time, Vici can really only look towards their playmaking potential. If Bard can get that premium ulti on top of LWX, Bang, maybe even Crisp to kind of push him to not be able to save somebody. Loong is getting incredibly tanky for himself, has Gargoyle, Stone Plate, and has that Warmogs as well. So his one chomp, just being able to flash chomp someone, is going to be that one game-winning moment that they can look for. Pushing back up this mid lane now, regaining control over the top side, because actually outer top lane turret is still alive. Loong has just managed to keep that one alive all game. No one from FPX has actually gone to the top lane quite some time. It's all been flanks around the bot side of the jungle, so this will eventually go down, but it's at least something for FPX to move towards now. Yeah, free gold that they can get for themselves. It's going to be nice for them. I mean, not a lot of focus has been there towards that top side tower. But now this is that one moment that they can go for it. They're looking for it. Weaver's Wall will split the fight. Martin's on the wrong side. And Easyhoon, he's right in the middle of the fight. Buying some time with Caveman's ultimate. We'll be looking to kite back. Big Sanguine pool coming in here, slowing down the entire team. Down goes the Galio. Loong on the retreat, but he can't quite get out. Now he's just managed to get back to the rest of his team. LWX chasing him down. Martin, that was very scary, but jumps forward. Puts some damage on the Pepper. He jumps in to the back lines, knocks in Loong to the team. Ready and waiting is LWX, and Chris will claim the kill in the end. Such amazing timing from Pepper, recognizing when he doesn't have the silence, when Cho'Gath cannot stop him from going for those kicks. So he just finds that target, and at that moment, it was Cho'Gath himself. LWX lands 2 auto attacks against Martin at the end of the fight. He can definitely 3-shot him with those silver procs coming in at the very end of that one. The tower goes down, inhibitor about the crack. 3 members left alive by Vici. Yeah, these are major death timers here. 15 seconds left for Easyhoon and 28 for Loong. Oh, LWX wants it. He's going very deep right now alongside Pepper. The dive pros come in. Crash also falls. Caveman, not a snowball's chance in hell at defending this one. FPX ram it down the mid lane. They take both Nexus turrets. And Vici, I don't know what to call this game. A comeback of a comeback of a comeback. But FPX have done it. 17-10. They take game 1 win. And you know what? FPX can thrive in that chaos. Vici were starting to regroup. They were starting to kind of buckle down towards the bottom side of the map. Buckle down to recognizing what made their composition strong, but it's always that one mistake. And that one mistake in this game was that Baron fight. Loong could not get back towards that portal. When that didn't happen, usually the easy answer is to let him go. You don't have to go for it. You can lose that one member. Of course, that's in hindsight. But they thought they could take the fight with a 25% HP Cho'Gath. They were wrong. It was a leave no man behind mentality, and sometimes that's a good thing, but in that case, as you said, very much not. But that was such a chaotic game. There were so many team fights that could have gone either way, and because of that chaos, there was a member who very much thrived in steady chaos, and that was LWX. Look at that Goldcraft. Up and down, up and down, up and down. You don't even see the last one where it's literally a direct elevator ride all the way up. Yeah, it's right off a cliff right there. Good lord. And so that's the thing. I think the one member, even though LWX did so much damage for himself, I would say applause to Pepper in that game, because it felt like he had a lot to face here. There was so much that was stopping him from getting those engages across, but he knew his windows and he found them. Getting proper kicks onto Loong, getting proper kicks onto Easyhoon. It worked out very well for him. I actually struggle to look at the roster of FPX and say there wasn't a player who did well. Because you look at mid lane, Bing had those early roams, looked really good on that Taliyah. You look towards the jungle as well, as you said, Pepper, needs to be applauded for his efforts. You look towards the top side, Gimgoon, fantastic flanks. Look towards the bottom side, the fact that Tahm Kench such mastery over that champion as well from Crisp. Like, everything came together from FPX, and that was against the late game team fighting of Vici. Exactly. Now they got to work on what they can actually fix going into game 2. Because game 1, even though it looked good for them individually, there were some real problems as a team. And those are the decisions that they made the bot side of the map. So going to game 2, don't be afraid to be patient. Yeah, it definitely wasn't pretty, but it still definitely was a win. Either way, that's going to do it from us, but we are going to welcome back the analyst desk to take it away.
Thank you so much, and welcome to the jungle, Vici Gaming. This is the FPX that we know and love. This is the FPX that is swift and decisive. They play the Vayne, they play the fights, they try to get the flanks from the late game. That Weaver's Wall at the very end was absolutely spectacular to separate and literally close the game.
We could actually hear the shot calling from FPX all the way here. Pepper screaming at the top of his lungs, Kaida, Kaida, Kaida! Yeah. Use your ult, use your ult. Traps all 5 members, and they get a perfect clean ace to close.
Yeah, exactly that, but it didn't start there. It started at the draft, of course, where we have to start from the very beginning. Vici Gaming, they came in with a pretty simple plan. They've got the Galio, they've got the Bard, Ezreal for some pretty good lane dominance. But then
lane dom.
Yeah, exactly. The Cho'Gath then comes in. Oh, here's actually that fight. The Weaver's Wall sets it up in the beginning, and they're just hemmed into a corner.
They get a 5-man onto that Redemption and onto that Vladimir W. Tons of AoE damage coming out, and they manage to pick off Easyhoon at the start of this fight. And watch this, Pepper goes in, kicks the Cho'Gath back for another kill there, and they're able to set the siege now that most of the wave clear is gone from Vici.
That was probably one of the easiest hitboxes he's ever had to click in his entire life, because it's massive.
It is
the
massive,
big old
right
Cho'Gath.
there.
But again, to get back to the draft, you know, FPX, they came in with the Vladimir first pick, Lee Sin, Taliyah. They had a very clear game plan early on. They weren't quite able to execute it in the early game, though.
So this game plan is pretty much them saying that we can play the scale game with you, and we're going to do that with LWX. However, I don't think they really executed on that game plan that well. The bottom lane fights all went to Vici. The 2 big ones went to Vici. And we've been waiting, man. Where has this Vici been? Where has this LPL mentality been? Because we want to see them be aggressive, take these early fights, and not just be a snooze fest. And I think Vici with Loong, with that familiarity from what they have with their top laner, they can start playing these aggressive plays. They can start taking the wheel and really running teams over with it.
We're seeing Easyhoon actually flash forward to look for the Shield of Duran taunt. We're seeing the likes of Loong getting huge teleport flanks into the back line. You know, we talked about the duo of Caveman and Loong, and now Easyhoon added into the mix. They have found synergy.
And that's another question I have for FPX. Where is there synergy between them and Gimgoon? Because of those bottom those 2 bottom fights, first one, Gimgoon didn't even come. Second one, he teleported way too far back to influence anything in the fight. It really did look like Gimgoon and his team weren't even on the same page. They couldn't find him at all. So that's a worrying signal for FPX.
Well, I mean, that being said, that's why we see them playing that scaling game, right? Like taking the slow game to try to scale it up. This is that exact same teleport. Loong, you can see coming in, and way down on your mini-map, there's the Gimgoon teleport.
Look at the difference between these 2 top laners. While Loong is winning the team fight for his team, you can't even find Gimgoon on the map. Gets that perfect knock up into the CC chain, kills Pepper immediately, and everything else is just cleanup. Watch what Gimgoon is doing. He's taking a marathon hike. He's going to mid lane.
Farming up some minions in the mid lane, like, I guess it's too late for me to fight. I might as well get some gold or something.
So Vici have such a good early game setup, you know. They won 2 massive fights in the bot lane. They have the tower pushes, but then it all goes wrong for them in the Baron. So a lot of it does hinge on that fight, and we'll jump into it quite soon. But there was a lot of possible plays they could have made. They had the Bard ultimate, so one thing they could have done was kind of rush the Baron down and ult everyone away. You can see 4 people jumping on the mystical journey and just leaving Loong there.
Oh, poor guy. He gets knocked back twice and ends up getting left for dead, surrounded by FPX. And finally he drops down, though Vici do try to come to his aid.
Yeah, but it's such an easy funnel for FPX to read right there, and a great combo coming out from pushing everyone back. That's AoE layered over AoE, and then LWX able to dodge everything away from the Galio and not die in that fight. So easy cleanup coming out from FPX right now, and really if Vici could have played their mid-game a little bit better. I felt like they could have won this game. Man of the match, of course, going to the Vayne.
9-1-5. LWX, the hyper carry man himself. You give him Cogmal, you give him Vayne, you give him Twitch, he'll have a hell of a time. But on any other champion, it's a bit of a different story.
And this is why we say FPX should have the better matchup against Vici Gaming. And it's because even though FPX will make a lot of early game mistakes, Vici is not exactly the team to punish them for it.
Yeah, well, they're certainly trying. We're seeing Vici step forward, and in in their set against Edward Gaming when they took game number 1, it was when Vici were able to set the tempo and set the pace against EDG that allowed them to take an advantage and even fight back a little bit during game number 3. We're trying to see, though, if Vici can pull that off here against FPX, because FPX is a team, I don't know that they have a tempo. Like, you know, like everyone has an internal beat. Everyone has like their internal music, right? Do you think FPX even listens to what Vici's playing?
Well, I'm pretty sure they can. We've seen great plays from them, like the last play over there, but they do need to clean up their kind of mid-game play. Gimgoon needs to be inside the picture.
Exactly.
You know, Pepper, sometimes he's way over-aggressive, kicks and actually kills his carry with the insec over there. And Chris has some very questionable Abyssal Voyages where he simply dies or takes too long of a ride.
Pretty rocky start for them. But hey, there's still plenty of time for them to get ready for game number 2. We'll be right back with that next match.